Come on. There we go. Let's see if I'm live or not. I know. There we go. It's a lot better. All right. Sorry about that again. Technical difficulties as always. So back.
Collective punishment. And on the flip side, Stop Killing Games is a populist movement. That's the very definition of messy. I could control that like I
A
could.
little bit further in the video before I realized what was going on. Yeah, like I said before, though, like, yeah, everything that happens after this point in the movement is entirely out of his hands, and it's not going to be like it's out of Thor's hands. Also,
Control the weather.
We did what we needed to do.
Oh, and speaking of barely keeping up, I've been having to play triage on emails and messages and prioritize the ones most critical for the campaign.
So I was going to say keeping up with all those emails is probably a bitch and a half.
Well, a lot of you are going to get a delayed response, but I should mostly catch up eventually. Okay, the final announcement. The UK government petition has cleared 100,000 signatures.
Like I said before, like you guys didn't end up hearing it because it got cut. Like my recording software fucked up on me. But this one's probably a lot more legit because there's a lot less signatures overall signed, and it probably a lot less overall signed signatures because a lot less people clicked on that second link. They only clicked on the first one and didn't have the time or patience to click on the second one.
I suspect these signatures are
That's
more
fine because those are probably the people who can't sign their names.
Legit. Though you can keep on signing it too as a safety margin. More will not hurt anything. So what should we expect from this? I honestly have no idea. I would bet money on the EU initiative delivering something good if it passes, but the UK has been more about exhausting all options. I will say whatever happens cannot be worse than the old answer from the Department of Media Culture.
I was going through and reading this. This was given on February 3rd, 2025. Give me 1 second, I'll get to it. There are no plans to amend UK Commissioner law on disabling video games. Those selling games must comply with existing requirements in consumer law. We will continue to monitor this issue. The government recognizes concerns raised by video game users regarding the operability of purchased products. As the lead department for video games, the Department for Culture, Media and Sports (DCMS) regularly engages industry representatives and monitors how consumers interact with games. We work with the Department of Business and Trade (DBT) as the lead department for consumer protection more generally. We are aware of the issue relating to the lifespan of digital content, including video games, and we appreciate the concerns of players of some games, and we have been that have been discontinued, and we have no plans to amend existing consumer laws on digital. So they pretty much just said they don't give a shit. That's like in clear, like it's a 3 paragraphs of I don't give a shit, and it's like bolded, outlined, and everything.
And sport. Yeah, we get to leapfrog over this garbage. This really is recycled garbage. Remember, we tried to launch this
It's probably 5 paragraphs of we don't give a shit and we're not going to do anything.
Last year, and they gave us an answer that was so bad it was rejected by the petitions committee, and they told government to try again.
The petitions committee, the group of MP who oversee the petition system, has considered the government's response to this petition. They felt the response did not respond directly to the request of the petition and have therefore ask the government to provide a revised response. When the committee receives a revised response from the government, we will publish and share with. Oh God, they made them go
again
back and
because this
redo it.
didn't answer the question. But then Parliament was dissolved. And when it came back and we relaunched again, we got the same answer copied and pasted into the new one. Just
They just AI generated and like switched it up a little bit.
rearranged a little bit. Part of me says all action in the UK has been held up by one grumpy bureaucrat in the department.
He's like, them games, they don't need them games. Destroy them all.
Well, now we can ignore that crap.
I don't know why I gave him a Southern Texas out. Like, it's just me being, I guess, Americanist. Gonna say he's in the UK, so he's probably a pompous asshole.
And head straight to Parliament.
Jackson.
I mean, they cannot do worse than this. A member of Parliament could sneeze on the petition, and that would not be a worse answer. And that's the one guaranteed thing we'll get out of this, which is answers.
Oh.
Now, for those of you wanting to juice this further, it's been brought to my attention there's a page for finding out who your member of Parliament is if you want to reach out and tell them, yes, bring this up in Parliament. I'd say, yeah, that could help.
Description if he
but that absolutely is more work than signing your name, so I'm keeping my expectations in check. There's a link in the description of this video.
There you go.
Okay, that's it. Just keep pushing. Now we're in the fog.
That's fun. The fog's fun. Alright, so that was that. That's our big update. What I would say is I'm glad he got the signatures. It looks like we're taking the next step forward, but like he said, it's out of his hands after this point. Hopefully a little bit, hopefully it goes a little bit further. Like I said, if he gets like another 10 to 20% further over that million mark, it's going to be more likely that he actually legitimately has that 1 million signatures that he's looking for. But other than that, I feel like we should move on. It's actually really great that he got the second set of signatures also. The fact that he hit both of his goals is like so great, and the fact that Pirate Software wasn't able to kill the momentum is also great. But anyways, we're moving on to the background and NPC. Are they gaslighting us? Now, I'm sure a lot of people, before we even get into this,
okay, I'm getting
to it from the thumbnail alone. I'm going to judge a book by its cover. She's talking about Ciri and the trailer between the original and the gameplay trailer that we just recently had. I don't really think she looked that different. Like, I think she looked exactly the same. I think people are just being biased based on the fact that the game actually looked good.
Blanket back out for this one because I need to talk about something that's kind of been bothering me. A few weeks ago, I was watching the Witcher 4 tech demo at the 2025 State of Unreal. Genuinely excited about what I was
to say. It's probably a difference in lighting also, because there's no way they were able to go back through and rechange her entire character design for the actual game this fast.
Seeing, and of course, one of the first things that I realized is that Ciri looked incredible. I immediately noticed a difference in her design, and I remember
actually go back just a little bit. Notice how her jawline is a lot more masculine right there. That's a lot more in tone with how the first one was, like the first trailer actually was. I feel like it's all about angles and lighting.
Immediately noticed a difference in her design, and I remember thinking, oh wow, they actually listened to fan feedback and refined her design. That's a little bit surprising. Then, not even a few hours later, CD Projekt Red tells press that they hadn't changed her, besides 2 very minor adjustments. And basically that what I was seeing with my own eyes wasn't actually what I was seeing. You know that feeling when someone says or does something right in front of you, and then when you point it out, adjustments. And basically,
spokesperson for CD Projekt Red told Kotaku that only 2 changes were made to Ciri in the new trailer, one of which has already been changed again. It's the same character model used in 2024 trailer. They said Ciri's face is a direct copy of the Witcher 3 model adept to work with the latest metahuman technology. 2 subtle changes were made to improve animation qualities, slightly raised eyebrows, and more relaxed eye areas, and more latter was presented in the trailer but has since been removed. So wait, what are they exactly saying here? CD Projekt Red said only two changes made to this new trailer, one of which has been changed again. It's the same character model used in the series face is a direct copy of the Witcher 3 model. I mean, I don't really think they are they saying that they changed it beforehand and they just used like the body model and just put the Witcher 3 face on there? Is that
That
what
what I was seeing with my own eyes wasn't actually what I was seeing. You know that feeling when someone says or does something right in front of you, and then when you point it out, they look you in the eye and they tell you that it never happened? Yeah,
you're
that's kind of
gaslit?
what it feels like being a gamer in 2025. I think we're all being gaslit pretty hard at this point. The state of the industry as a whole has gotten more and more questionable over the years, but lately it seems like it's all been coming to a head, and over again, I've recognized the
I'm
pattern.
I'm a little confused on how we're being gaslit by this statement. Two changes, right? So they also changed it again. So I think Face is a direct adapted to work with the latest. So what they're saying is, Meta. Hey, you two stop.
Eyes wasn't actually what I was seeing. You know that feeling when someone says or does something right in front of you, and then when you point it out, they look you in the eye and they tell you that
So
it never happened?
yeah, I guess what they are saying is that the body model is from the trailer, but the actual face model is from Witcher 3, and the entire thing is like a mesh show
Yeah,
of like
that's kind of what it
that
feels
they were
like
testing.
being a gamer in 2025. I think we're all being
So
gaslit pretty
yeah, I
hard
guess
at this
she is a
point.
little
The
right. We
state of
are
the
being
industry
gaslit
as a
because
whole has
it's not
gotten more and more
actually a
questionable over the
trailer.
years, but
That's
lately
not
it
actually
seems like
the
it's
new
all
game.
been coming to a head, and over again,
Which fair. I think it looked a little close to the trailer, but apparently I'm actually 100% wrong.
I've recognized the pattern of being told that what we're seeing, feeling, and experiencing is actually not the case. This is kind of an important thing, and it matters to me because there
Well, because
used to
this was shown off as not only a tech demo, but it was also shown off as like the new game, like kind of supposed to be like a pseudo like gameplay trailer. We all knew, like when I watched it, at least I knew that this wasn't actually the gameplay. Like you could tell by the camera member angles and how it zoomed in and everything. Like it was all like for show and everything. But like a lot of people probably saw this and thought like this is the new gameplay.
be a time when you could generally trust what the industry professionals were telling you. When a studio said they hadn't changed something, they hadn't changed it. When they explained why a game underperformed, their reasoning typically aligned with what players were actually experiencing. And when companies talked about their design choices, their explanations felt genuine and transparent.
Yeah, normally they were just like, "Hey guys, we fucked up. We bought too many Doritos, got too much Mountain Dew, and now we only have 2 weeks to make the game, and we got to push it back. So, can you work with us on that?" That's how it used to.
But somewhere along the way, that started to change. Now I find myself constantly second guessing official statements and cross referencing a studio's or journalist's claims with what I can see with my own eyes. And I'm always wondering if there's some other angle or narrative being pushed. The erosion of that basic trust between the gaming industry and us, their audience, that's what really bothers me. Because when you don't have that
Well, see, that's the other thing though, is that like I don't 100% need to trust like the companies that are trying to sell shit to me, but it would be nice to know that like they're not trying to pull a fast one. Like I'm not being grifted. That's the biggest thing. Like I at least want to know for the fact like they're not trying to sell me something that's fake, which is what essentially CD Projekt Red is doing right now. They're showing us something that's being presented as a trailer when like none of this is actually has anything to do with what The Witcher 4 is actually going to be like or what it's going to look like, which it's like a straight up gaslight.
That basic foundation, when you feel like you can't trust the people making the games to be honest about the games they're making, everything else starts to crumble. So today we're going to talk about some recent examples of industry gaslighting because I fear the feeling of, I think I'm going crazy, has finally caught up with me. Let's start with the moment that really sparked this whole video and honestly made me question my own eyes. CD Projekt Red delivered a beautiful tech demo that gave us a gorgeous slice of the direction that they're hoping to take with Witcher 4. Kelpie,
Which honestly, it looked really good. And honestly, like, I was getting hype while watching it for The Witcher 4. Other than the horse muscle physics, that was a little weird.
it looks like she just got plucked out of Anna Sewell's novel, and the world of the game is absolutely captivating. And yes, they're telling us that the demo is running at 60 FPS with full ray tracing on a base PS5, which is pretty cool, I guess, even though this is just a demo. So after watching this not gameplay of Witcher 4, I was a little bit conflicted. I wanted to be excited, but not too excited, while also being especially cautious since I'll be playing it on a PC. RIP to any Xbox Series S users. But then I saw Siri,
Wait, what's going on?
which is pretty cool, I guess, even though this is just a demo. So after watching this not gameplay of Witcher 4, I was a little bit conflicted. I wanted to be excited, but not too excited, while also being especially cautious since I'll be playing it on a PC. RIP to any
Witcher 4 rounds will be extremely Jesus. So yeah, we'll probably be getting a late version. It'll probably come out on PlayStation, and PC first, and then we'll probably get an Xbox version like 3 or 4 months later because Xbox has the rule that like it can't release on just one console. It's got to be able to work on both.
Xbox Series S users. But then I saw Siri, and my heart just lifted. I was genuinely kind of in awe of how beautiful she looked. She felt like the Siri I remembered, the one I'd fallen in love with in Witcher 3. And
Like I said, I didn't think she looked too different than the original, like the character model from the original trailer that they showed off. But apparently, it is two different character models spliced together.
thought, wow, they obviously listened to fans on this, and honestly, I was really grateful and impressed. I thought it was such a smart move to make changes and improve her design to just have her be more in line with the old look and feel from the previous game. Although I am very sorry to this man who felt differently. But then, after fans began to celebrate and speculate, CD Projekt have her be more in line with the old look and feel from the previous game. Although I am
Always wanted to play as a MILF, but they made her more feminine and young. Disappointed.
very sorry to this man who felt differently. But then, after fans began to celebrate and speculate, CD Projekt Red tells the press, "We have not modified Ciri's face." According to them, this was the same model that was used for The Witcher 3, the cinematic reveal trailer from the Game Awards last December, and the new tech demo from earlier this month. They said it was adapted to work with the latest metahuman technology, but that the model was the exact same. And then, after talking about it even further, they almost kind of cautiously admitted that they made slight improvements to her eye area. And then I just sat there squinting at Ciri's face for the next 10 minutes, feeling really dumb and comparing the two like I was going crazy because I thought that I could clearly see a pretty big difference. At this point, I've seen all the talking points, even from
Jesus, honestly, that side by side is really bad.
CD Projekt Red.
Like I said, if you go back to the place where she was like looking off in the distance earlier, where I paused it, it almost looks like one for one.
Themselves, lighting, camera angles.
The only difference is, like they said, they did change the eyes. They rounded her eyes out instead of making it more like hardened, and like you see here, she's like squinting down, and her eyebrows like edge out, and here she looks like a Disney character where her eyes are rounded out. The nose shape is almost the same. I would say they maybe bridged her nose a little hard, like they softened her nose a little bit there. But the lips, oh, actually, they might have softened her lips a little bit too, actually. Because I would say she doesn't have as hard of a bottom lip, but that also might be the lighting and the angle. But chin-wise, I would say is almost exactly the same, and same with cheek structure and everything. They might have given her a little bit more of like a dimple area too here.
cinematics versus the tech demo rendering.
So, like I said, they changed everything.
And yes, those do play a role. And listen, I am not a tech whiz by any means, but the bottom line is that when you put all three pictures,
I can kind of see how this one could become this one, not gonna lie. And then everybody didn't like this one. So then they modified it into this one to try to appease fans. I can kind of see that, don't you think? Like, this is the Witcher 3 model, and then this was the one that they showed at the original. I mean, I see, like, a small bit of a difference. That's what I was thinking.
There's farmers.
pictures up side by side, come on, she clearly looks pretty different, right? Like, right? Between the cinematic reveal and this latest version in the tech demo, there have clearly been some changes made, and it's an obvious improvement that we should be celebrating. Now,
Now,
you
I
might
will say the tech demo version definitely does look different. Actually, now that I've seen it side by side, like, especially lining all three up. But I would also argue that the Witcher 3, like the original Witcher 3 version, looks closer to what we got in the actual.
be saying, NPC,
The
is this even that big of a deal? You know what? You're probably right. But here's the thing.
Well, it also means that they're listening, at least.
I was pretty surprised when they first revealed Ciri's design in the cinematic last year, and I was not alone. There was a whole range of responses. For me, I had no problem with the fact that she is older, and even though I love Geralt, I also had no problem with him not being the main protagonist. My problem was that her design was just...
She looks really angry. She looks very angry that they're in her swamp.
weird. It was just off. It didn't look like the Ciri I had remembered, even with her being aged up. It was like they were randomly trying to give us some new Temu Ciri. And now that she clearly looks different and more like her previous model in such a good way.
Well, see, I don't even know if that's the case. Like I said, the bridge of her eyes and everything are definitely more hardened here and everything. And like I said, I feel like they were just trying to update it to look a little bit more modern, realistic, and like she was saying, a little older. But then they softened it once they heard all the backlash from the original reception.
Why are we being told that we're essentially imagining these improvements? I don't know, just take the W. Say, yeah, we worked to refine her look and move on. We're never going to be mad at you.
Well, I mean, they also, the way they worded it was so weird. They were like, we didn't change anything, but we did change these things. Though, in the way that, like, it was structured, like, in the way that, like, she also, like, presented it and said that they were gaslighting us, I just felt like, I don't know.
For giving a beloved character the Sonic treatment, which, by the way, worked out really well for Paramount. They're literally working on Sonic 4 as I speak, so please make this make sense. CD Projekt Red, your demo looked amazing, and your fans love you and they just want to praise you. Just let them. Alright, moving on to BioWare, EA, and Dragon Age the Veilguard, because yes, the horse isn't quite dead enough. This is a perfect
I was gonna say, you're just gonna keep beating that one, aren't you?
textbook example of blame deflection, and I'm still trying to wrap my head
played this game also, by the way, so I honestly God have no real opinion on it.
around how all of this is played out. So Dragon Age the Veilguard came out last October, a game that could have cost up to $250 million to make, and as we all know, it did not go well, to say the least. Critics and journalists across
Yeah, Mighty L. Mighty L.
the board gave this game incredibly high scores. They were eating it up. Some even called it the best
I was gonna say, there were so many YouTubers making content about how bad this game was.
in the series, and Metacritic even gave it an 89, with zero negative
82.
reviews, actually. Users, they gave it just a 3.9. That's a pretty huge gap, and now we just have this weird situation where we're told by the industry that this is a great game. I mean, just look at the reviews.
That's been an issue. That's been an issue since as long as, like, I think, like, the first time I really started to notice it, it was like around 2014, 2015. And like, oh God, what exactly happened? I was going to play a game and it was absolute garbage. Like, I did not have fun with it at all, and I had more fun with a game that I think I spent like $5 on the eShop that no one had ever heard of, and like I played that shit for like 10 more hours than some triple. I think it was like one of the Far Cry games. I think it was Far Cry 4 specifically when it came out, and then after like I think I only played like 4 or 5 hours, and I put down the controller and I never picked that thing back up because it was absolute garbage. And I went to go see what people were saying about it, and it was all like outstanding reviews and everything else like that. And I was like, I just don't like. You could feel the minute that like you started playing the game that they were not working with they were either not working with the same team that wrote Far Cry 3, or they were just trying really hard to do Far Cry 3 again without any of the actual substance that Far Cry 3 had.
Scores, but players are having a much different experience, and this whole situation just added more fuel.
Nobody was saying that. Everyone was just talking about how great the gunplay was and how they added all these cool new features. And while that's all great, let's not forget the fact that Far Cry 3 wasn't just good because it was Skyrim with guns. It was good because of the fact that it had a story that was, what is it called? It's pseudo-cognitive dissonant, or no, it's not pseudo-cognitive dissonance. It's pseudo-cognitive harmony. And that's when the gameplay and the actual story line up to the point that like the story reflects the gameplay and the gameplay reflects the story. Like, you are turning into this violent psychopath, and you don't know if you're going to be able to return into society after the lines you've had to cross to save your friends and loved ones. And like most other games, and including the other Far Cry games, just don't address that.
Fuel to the fire of gamers not trusting professional reviews when there's
Also,
such
the fact that the Chitao, every time you got a level up and you completed the skill tree, you actually saw it update on your arm, was one of the coolest skill trees I think I've ever seen in all of gaming. And I actually completed the entire thing just because I thought it was so badass.
massive disconnect between critics and players. What are we supposed to believe? What is the actual truth when it comes to the quality of the game? So all of this went down last October, and it seems like it had pretty much fallen to the wayside, a memory that everyone was just trying to forget until, for whatever reason, multiple reports and articles came out just recently attempting to figure out the real reasons for this game's commercial failure.
News report details Dragon Age the Veilguard's ugly failure through live service flip-flops, rewrites, and you're gonna have to get in. Or just stay up here. Lay down. Rewrites and conflicts with Mass Effect.
According to EA's CEO Andrew Wilson, the game failed because it didn't resonate with a broad audience that wants shared world features and live services. Okay.
Did you read any of the reviews that came from people that actually played the game? It sounds like I I don't know where you get that take from. It wasn't live service enough. That's why it failed. It was too much of a single player mainstay game. It was too much like Expedition 33. That's why it failed.
I guess I'll have to take your word for it on that one, Andrew. According to Bloomberg, the blame was on the 10-year developmental cycle of pure chaos, including numerous internal pivots, project shifts, and the scrapping of those pesky live service integrations. But if you look at what players and many longtime fans of the series had to say, you see a different story. Some of the common criticisms reflect things like lack of player agency, dismissal of established.
Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have a full take on this one because I didn't play the game. I'm just not a huge Dragon Age fan. I didn't really like I played all of them, and I didn't like any of them. So, well, other than Veilguard, obviously, because I just said I didn't play that. But I played fucking Origins, I played 2, and I played fucking, what was the last one? Inquisition that happened. And none of them were my cup of tea.
lore, shallow combat systems, unlikable characters, weak storytelling, and yes, poorly written dialogue that felt very preachy and awkward. So
If I'm being 100% honest with you, and like people might get mad at me for this, and I'm not 100%, like, I really don't care. I feel like it was always this way. Like, their writing was always cheesy and it was always like a little bad. I never felt like anytime I played the Origins or fucking Inquisition, and especially 2, I never felt like the writing was great and I never really resonated with it on a deeper level.
many Dragon Age fans have said that it just did not feel like a true Dragon Age game. And this misfire on EA's part directly led to them falling short of their 3 million player target by about 50% after it was reported that only 1.5 million players engaged with the game. Layoffs followed, and EA's been trying really hard for the last 8 months to place the blame somewhere, but instead of listening to legitimate player criticisms or looking at the past 10 years of corporate meddling, their response was to essentially blame the gamers. Whew, there's almost too much gaslighting here to keep track of, but
Yeah, expected to. Sorry, I zoned out for a minute.
really written dialogue that felt very preachy and awkward. So many Dragon Age fans have said that it just did not feel like a true Dragon Age game. And this misfire on EA's part directly led to them falling short of their 3 million
Yeah, they only got halfway there.
player target by about
Good job,
50%
man.
after it was reported that only 1.5 million players engaged with the game. Layoffs followed, and EA's been trying really hard for the last 8 months to place the blame somewhere, but instead of listening to legitimate player criticisms or looking at the past 10 years of corporate meddling, their response was to essentially blame the gamers. Whew, there's almost too much
Yep, it's all our fault. We want too much live service.
gaslighting here to keep track of, but I feel like the facts are pretty clear. EA and BioWare put out a mediocre at best game, and their design decisions and motives were just
I
not
was gonna say they set a bar way too high for a product that was half-assed.
what the audience was looking for. And then when the criticisms started rolling in, they blamed the audience and said it was their fault. How are we supposed to have honest conversations
It's your fault for not buying it enough.
about what went wrong and how to avoid those mistakes in the future if we can't even agree on reality? But EA's got nothing on Ubisoft. Listen, I used to be a pretty big Ubisoft fan, okay? Assassin's Creed 2, Black Flag, or
Oh my god, Black Flag. Like, fuck Assassin's Creed games, fuck Ubisoft, all that all together for a minute. Black Flag was, like, hands down one of the best pirate games and, like, best ship sailing games, like, out there to date. Like, I don't know how you have Black Flag and then fucking, what is that? Skull and Bones exists. Like, I don't know how Skull and Bones exist and Black Flag exist, and Black Flag came first. Like, and they're both from the same studio. Like, Black Flag was the blueprint. All you had to do was just do it again, take the Assassin's Creed logo off of it. That's literally it. That is 110% all you had to do. And then you would have had the perfect game, the perfect pirate game. Fuck, you could have even sold like 3 or 4 DLCs, but somehow we got Skull and Bones out of that, and I don't understand.
Origins, Far Cry 4, and of course, the one I'm sure you're
Like I just said, I don't like this game. I
We're all
this is
thinking
the
of
fault of Ubisoft.
Just Dance. These games were a huge part of my gaming life, so watching what's happened to this company, it genuinely does hurt to see. Like a tale as old as time, Ubisoft has been struggling after their recent debacles. They unfortunately suffered some pretty big losses after the underperformance of Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws, and
Yeah, both of those games were huge hits. Ubisoft, they're not doing well over there right now. They're putting out a lot of fires.
what was their response? Well, they of course followed this new industry trend where their CEO blamed the gamers. Now, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this
It's very easy to do that.
game before it even came out, and it was reported that Ubisoft actually had an anti-harassment plan in place when the game launched. It's wild to think that they were literally preparing for backlash before this game.
It's not hard to believe. If you were online before Assassin's Creed Shadows dropped, like I think it was like 2 to 3 months before it dropped, people were just shitting all over this game. It was not hard to believe at all that they had an anti-harassment plan. They knew that people were going to be mad about this one. They delayed it as long as they could because they knew people were going to be mad at this one. They finished the game and got as many bugs as possible out because they knew people were going to be mad about this one.
Even came out. And just a really quick side note on this, I don't like the attacking or harassment of an individual developer. It is pretty wild to be in the business of making games for a living, something that's inherently supposed to be fun and engaging, an escape for consumers, something that for the most part should be a joy to work on, and somehow put yourselves in a situation where you're preparing for backlash over things that you intentionally acknowledged, chose to do, and could have completely avoided. It's like knowing the future, but still making the decisions that led to your death. But I digress. Ubisoft was a company that used to pride itself on delivering historically accurate and culturally appreciative.
See, the thing is like, yes, they did do this, and it was like a giant selling point for Assassin's Creed, but I don't think it was like they really prided themselves in doing this when they were pumping out a new Assassin's Creed every year. They were just using it as a marketing tool. And they were, not only did they use it as a marketing tool, but they knew that it was integral to the product so much that they needed to get it right.
Games. So the fact that they're the ones that are making these missteps, and
what I'm getting at is they never gave a shit about history. It was always a part of selling the game.
Also having some pretty disappointing responses to their Japanese community, it feels really bad. I mean, we're talking about a game set in Japan that many Japanese people are clearly not liking. When Shadows was delayed and pre-orders slumped, instead of recognizing legitimate concerns from a large portion of the community, including the Japanese community, or recognizing that a lot of fans were calling out and preferring their direct competitor, Ghost of Tsushima, Ubisoft's
such a great game, honest to God. Ghost of Tsushima, like, I wish I had a PlayStation right now in order to play it.
CEO essentially said gamers were at fault when Star Wars Outlaws sold only 1 million copies in the first month. He had claimed that gamers have extraordinary expectations that are basically impossible to meet, even when delivering solid quality. Yeah.
I don't know if that I would call that solid quality. You offered an open world game where choice is supposed to be a main factor, and you're supposed to have plenty of content, but you just offered the most sanitized, bare bone experience.
It's honestly a fascinating timeline here. Pre-launch, we expect some kind of toxic pushback. Post-launch sales dip, gamers complain too much. Investor call, solid quality is not enough.
If we complain too much, shouldn't you be listening to try to get us to stop doing that?
Shifting the blame at every step, and when leadership reframes lukewarm sales as proof that players are too picky, every critique becomes toxic by default. But is that really the only option here? Are there no other alternative reasons as to why your game didn't sell as well as you'd hoped?
It's because you fucked up. You fucked up and you couldn't cut the cord either.
Gamers toxic becomes the
default. You're essentially on a sinking ship that is on fire heading straight for an oil rig, and you either jump off and drown or run into the fucking oil rig, so might as well go out in a blaze of glory, right?
Default response anytime concerns are raised, it really starts to wear you down. It feels like being told that your years of support and investment in these franchises basically count for nothing, and that it was never to benefit us, it was all for them, the company. And yes, I know, it is a business, and the whole goal for the business is to make money. But it's weird because it's almost like the consumers have no say, that what we want doesn't matter, and we should just appreciate whatever it is that they deem fit to give us.
You should be happy that I did this for you, and you should appreciate spending your money on it.
That wanting good games makes us the problem. And what happened after all of this? Well, the market responded exactly how you'd expect, and their stock dropped by about 17%. I've never been an EA girl, but for Ubisoft in particular,
Shit.
this cuts even deeper than just normal bad business
Holy shit, that's a huge drop. 18%. They took almost a 20% hit.
practices, because just like with my emotions with Nintendo, when you support a company for years and have so many good memories of playing their games, recommending them to friends, watching them repeatedly just turn around and blame you, their fan, for their failures feels like such a betrayal. This brings me to something I'd like to call the indie reality check. We're seeing massive AAA titles flounder all around us, and yet
Well, I was going to say we're proving that smaller games can be just as efficient as AAA games and still provide overall a better experience.
somehow we're also watching indies and indie-like titles completely blow up and experience huge success. The AAA studios have their ideas for why titles are failing, but when you look at the other side of the coin, the games that are actually winning, it tells a completely different story. And honestly,
I am also going to say, as an indie gamer, it's not just as easy as make a good game, put it out there. It takes a lot to start gaining momentum and actually like get people to pick up and everything. It does take a little bit of luck, but at the same time, like we're the all like indie game developers are the only ones that actually have the passion to try to make something that's going to be more entertaining and engaging, and not just try to feed you slop.
this gives me hope because it proves that the problem isn't with gamers, it's with the approach. And nobody said this better than Sven Vinke from Larian at the Game Awards in 2023.
Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They understood.
I watched this after after Expedition 33, and we finished, or like I finished Expedition 33 and everything else like that, and I want to believe that he knew what they were developing.
The value of respect. That if they treated their developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared.
That happened with fucking Cyberpunk 2077. That game came out like horribly, and fucking they stuck to their fucking guns, made it better, and fucking came back and said, "We fucked up, guys, but here's some better content," and fucking everybody loved it.
About their game because they loved games. It's really that simple.
Now, I know Larian technically is no longer an indie studio, but he literally laid out the formula for success. They made a game that they wanted to play themselves. It's really that simple. The people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything other than a team first, entertainment first, consumer first approach. And they knew that if they did this, then the revenue would
Huh, fancy that. If you think of the consumer first, the consumer might actually spend their money.
inevitably follow. When you focus on making an incredible game first, an engaging world, likable characters that draw you in, fun mechanics, compelling storytelling, and natural character development, the experience is not only fully immersive, but very successful. And when you look at some of the criticisms surrounding Dragon Age the Veilguard and you put it against Baldur's Gate 3, it showed that you can even have more progressive elements in your game without the
Yeah, I was gonna say nobody's bitching about the fact that you can fuck a bear in Baldur's Gate 3, because that game is literally so good. Or the fact that you can fuck like literally any character, be any gender you want, or literally, what is it? Decide the size of your penis in the fucking or decide the fact that you can have breasts and have a penis at the same time in the character creator. Like literally nobody's been talking about that. But everybody's been talking about fucking Dragon Age the Veilguard just because like how bad it just is.
them feeling forced or performative. And their success clearly proves that. Despite what the media might say, no, I don't believe the majority of players are a mixture of is and phobes. I know everyone has their preferences, but across the board, most gamers can agree that they do not want developers sacrificing quality for messaging. If you've got forced messaging and an obvious lack of quality,
Just make a good game that focuses on gameplay. Don't focus on fucking politics.
you're in trouble.
Either side of politics. Don't try to appease. Don't do that. Just try to make a game. And when you make a video game, gameplay should always come first. Telling a good story is nice, but you should always focus on the moment-to-moment gameplay and then making sure it's engaging and fun.
Because you're clearly not respecting the player, and that respect is so important. Baldur's Gate 3 respects the player and their intelligence, and it honestly lets you engage with themes.
Honestly, I just finished and I did a video on the Altars also, and that's a great game that does both a great story and focuses on moment-to-moment gameplay and making sure that the moment-to-moment gameplay is engaging and rewarding and also feeds to the overall theme of the narrative. And like I was saying, Far Cry is another version of that as well.
Organically and in a way that makes sense a lot of times when and if you choose to. But Dragon Age tells you what to think and when to think it. So while AAA companies are telling us that microtransactions, live service elements, and $80 price tags are required, Sven and his team prove
the $80 price tag is just the fucking stinging bow on top of all the other bullshit that they've been feeding us.
Proved that the exact opposite approach works much better. Speaking of $80 price tags, allow me to follow up on my Nintendo video for just a minute. Nintendo launched the Switch 2 with marketing about how they've fixed and updated all of the original's problems, and very interestingly, they also noted that the Hall effect precision for the Joy-Cons would not be present for the Switch 2 for whatever.
I have heard the exact opposite. This is
reason. But even with that being the case, they said they had designed these sticks from the ground up to be more durable. And yeah, unfortunately, some players are already experiencing Joy-Con drift 2.0. There's also been reports of consoles shutting down without low battery warnings due to a bug and just general poorer battery life than anticipated. And Nintendo has quietly posted hidden recovery mode fixes and released information on how to patch these issues. Now, when you launch a new and improved console that immediately sees some of the same problems.
I was going to say they won that lawsuit over the drift, so there's no reason they have to fix this one either. Fuck the hell. They could just go on and say they fixed it and just not do it.
As the previous one, but you've specifically marketed it as having solved those problems. That's just not a good look. But the real gaslighting comes in how they frame any criticism. When fans pointed out that $80
shit, it's a video all about gaslighting, and I just literally described gaslighting.
For Mario Kart World, the 16th entry in the franchise, feels excessive, especially when indie studios are delivering fuller experiences for $50. Nintendo's messaging essentially becomes, well, you should be grateful we're giving you anything at all.
Well, you should fucking buy it. You should fucking buy it, and when it breaks, buy another one.
Doug Bowser
we need to catch up to Bezos.
Literally told consumers who couldn't afford a Switch 2 to just buy the original Switch instead. Well, Mr. Bowser, given some
can't afford the first one, buy another one. Can't afford the second one, buy the first one. Can't buy the first one, buy the light. Can't buy the light, go get an N64.
These early hardware issues, you might have helped some people dodge a bullet. Oh, and speaking of Switch 2 demand, someone was apparently so frustrated that they couldn't get one that they hijacked a Nintendo truck and stole over $1.4 million worth of consoles, which honestly, I don't know. That just feels like the
Robin Hood of gaming.
Most Nintendo thing to happen during a...
I feel like it's just an excuse because they don't have enough chips again to make more fucking Switches, and they don't want to get blamed for being short, so they had to come up with this elaborate story. Or it's all true, and like I said, he's the Robin Hood of gaming, and there's like a hood out there somewhere where every kid's got a fucking new Switch 2. Or you can find them on eBay, one or the other. One of the three.
A console launch. But let's get back on track and talk about some legitimate indie studios who are truly becoming the David to these AAA Goliaths.
I am not a David, but I am an indie studio. So, like, if you want to support my games and don't want the AAA slog, you can always go buy them. There will be a link in the description below.
Sandfall Interactive and Clair Obscur should continue to get all the praise. You might not know this, but they only have 34 core developers working on the game. Yes, the media has begun to try and honestly completely diminish this by making sure to clarify
It was made by 30 people plus some freelancers. Like, the freelancers don't deserve full credit. I will 100% agree on that.
that Sandfall had many other teams who contributed to the success of the game, the same as any other studio, but the facts are still the facts. They only had 34 game developers. We've also seen
like, the only
other
ones that are,
indies
like,
like Citizen
getting
Sleeper,
popular,
1000 Resist,
like,
and
all the
Another Crab's Treasure hitting 1 million in sales with full teams smaller than most AAA marketing departments. Pizza Tower, made by a super small team, has sold over 1 million copies. Hades was made by Supergiant with a team of around 20 and became a cultural phenomenon. Celeste, the beloved platformer that's had
Hades was such a good fucking game and such a great concept. I'm surprised we didn't get a game like that sooner, honest to God.
both heavy themes, was made by just 7 people. And Gris, the beautiful exploration of grief and loss, was made by less than 20 people. And has sold over 3 million copies at this point. These aren't flukes. They're proof that quality has nothing to do with the size of the team. And another great thing
Fucking Clair Obscur, that game is fucking amazing.
about these teams that are pushing boundaries and crafting unique and engaging stories is that, for the most part, indies don't blame audiences when something flops. They don't call their critics toxic, they just focus on making the
Yeah, I was gonna say, normally if you're a good indie, you take the criticism on the chin. Make sure, if you're a really good indie, you take the criticism on the chin and then you read over it, see if they are right or not, because sometimes people will give you criticism that is just purely wrong and you ignore those people for clear reasons they're just wrong. But if it's actually genuinely good criticism and it can further improve your game, you're going to take that on the chin and try to either further improve the game through an update, or your next time when you go to make a sequel, you're going to make sure that you address that problem even further. Like, you're going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. You're going to add it to your toolkit and be better. And any good indie, and honestly, you can do that with anything in life. If you think you are not doing great and you're getting criticism on something, actually listen. That is the number one thing to getting better, especially if you're getting criticism from someone that knows more from you, or like, especially like in this situation, like it's a video game. You literally have the consumer telling you what they want. Why would you not listen? They want to give you their money. They're literally telling you what they want. You just have to give it to them. You just have to listen and then go, okay, you're right, here you go. It's just like any good customer service. What is it? Oh, okay.
best games possible, games that they themselves would love to play. The Indie Reality Check shows us that when developers focus on passion over profit, respect their audience, and prioritize game quality over corporate mandates or checkboxes, success can and hopefully will follow. It shows us that it's not about the size of your team or your budget, it's about your heart.
It's all about the quality. It's all about making sure that the players actually having fun and feel like they you respect them and that they respect their purchase and feel good about their purchase.
And your honesty. Which brings me to one of the most frustrating examples of industry gaslighting, the weaponization of the toxic gamer label. And this was brought to the forefront again pretty recently with the release.
Everyone, the first thing, all gamers are toxic. All they do is yell. All they do is just say the N-word all day long. And they just fucking are going to be mean, nasty, gross people to you. It's just all we are. No, it's not gamers. That's just Reddit.
Of Stellar Blade on PC. Like its initial launch, the PC release has been a massive success. Within the first week, it sold over 1.1 million copies on Steam, and it's now sold over 3 million copies across all platforms. But unfortunately, many of our beloved media were not super happy with the protagonist in this game. One journalist even called Eve a doll sexualized by someone who had never seen a woman. They ended up having to issue a full apology after it was said that Eve's design was actually scanned directly from a...
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you insult someone's body directly, you kind of have to go, oh, my bad. Especially when you tell them that they're fake.
Korean model. And then, of course, other articles implied that the game's success was just because EVE only catered to the male gaze. Players, including women, clearly connected with this character and game, but somehow appreciating the character design became a moral failing. Here's where the gaslighting
A lot of men definitely appreciated the design. They appreciated every part of the design.
gets obvious. When games like Outlaws and Forspoken underperform, and when some fans
Okay, Star Wars Outlaws aside, I've never played this game, but I have seen all the clips of like the actual dialogue. I didn't know you could write B movie dialogue unironically, and that is what they did.
expressed disappointment about not seeing the return of beloved protagonists like Jin Sakai or Geralt, it's because gamers are sexist and they can't handle female leads. But then we get a very female-focused game with female characters and a very prominent female lead, and it's super successful. I don't know, maybe it's not quite as they say.
It might be the boobs. Not gonna lie, it might be successful because of the boobs. It's not a bad thing because it's like that. It's sold well because of the boobs. It just proves that sex sells. But the boobs might have had something to do with it.
Even with the success of Stellar Blade aside, there are lots of other examples of this. Again, take Clair Obscur as another easy one. It's got a majority female cast, and it's basically been praised by every gamer across the board. Or how about one of my personal favorites, A Plague Tale series? And even when I
heard this game was good, but like I don't like everything I've seen like gameplay wise. It doesn't look like it's much of a game. I could be wrong. It doesn't look like it's much of a game. It looks more of like a story game.
look at upcoming games like Last Sentinel, Tides of Annihilation, Resident Evil 9, or the new female protagonist in the first Berserker Kazan, the community generally seems pretty hyped. These games are getting very positive reception and excitement from the same audience that supposedly is sexist. So how does that work? The pattern is
We hate women. Just not when, or we hate women when the media wants it. That's what it is.
just too clear. According to many of our media and developers, when games with female protagonists succeed, it's despite gamers. When they fail, it's because of gamers. This really makes no sense. And like I've said many times in multiple videos at this point, gamers love female characters. We just want good ones. Series like Tomb Raider.
Most guys are going to want to stare at a girl's ass from a third-person perspective, or like I said, see a woman in a cutscene move around more often. Not even just men, just women in general also are more likely to want to stare at that 8 to 9 hours in a gameplay session than they are to want to stare at some man's hairy fucking ass for 8 to 9 hours. Yeah, she's gonna get it.
Metroid, Horizon, Bayonetta, and so many more are all examples of very prominent female
And personally, that's why I like playing in first person, so I don't gotta stare at anyone and I can just pretend I'm in the game.
characters with massive devoted fan bases. And when the industry deflects legitimate criticism by labeling it as toxicity, it's a perfect way to avoid addressing the real problems with their products. When every piece of feedback gets dismissed as sexism or bigotry, you lose the ability to actually improve.
I was gonna say you can't criticize, and like I said, if you can't criticize, then you can't improve and you can't add more tools to your tool belt, and you can't address problems further on and make better games. You're gonna stunt yourself.
And more importantly, you lose the trust of people who genuinely want you to succeed. It's not about the gender of
Like I said, they are literally telling you what they want you to do so they can give you their money. It's like someone coming up to you, giving you a gun, and going, I just need you to cock this and point it in my face and I will give you all my money. And you get the gun and you cock it and you put it in your mouth. Like, what?
protagonist. It's about the quality of the character and their ability to resonate with the audience. And we should not be gaslit into thinking that this standard is the problem. At the end of the day, even though some of these examples were a little bit more minor than others, what disappoints me the most about all of this gaslighting is that the majority of us actually want developers to succeed. We want games to succeed. Gaming is the greatest storytelling medium that we have, and when it's done right,
could not agree more with that. It is the most engaging like storytelling medium, and it is the storytelling medium with the most potential to elevate storytelling even further. Like the fact that oh my god, the fact that Claire Obscure was able to say so much about art in general and the context of an art medium with an art theme is just stupid ridiculous. Like, Jesus Christ, it could literally not happen in any other medium.
Nothing else comes close. That's why this industry generates more money than all other forms of entertainment combined. I've loved games my whole life because they've always had the unique ability to just draw me into a story in a way that's so much more powerful than movies.
Because you're engaged, you're super invested, because you feel like you've been on the journey, you've been part of the story. It's like 10 times different than a movie. A movie, you're watching someone else move the plot along. A game, you're moving the plot along.
Or books, and they've introduced me to characters that I still think about so many years later. So please, we are not asking for perfection. We just want honesty. If you change something to better reflect your audience's wishes, you should feel encouraged.
I still don't know if like these two are exactly the same. I would say like what happened is they just took this, put it on a more jagged like character model, and it looked weird stretched out and laid over top of it, and then they just rounded out the character model more.
To celebrate that,
Yeah,
even if it's something very minor. And if your game isn't connecting with consumers, maybe that means you should look at your decisions leading up to the release instead of pointing fingers at us. When games succeed because they give gamers what they want, a lot of times the industry says it's just pandering. And when games fail because they ignore
I think a lot of this isn't really the games industry as much as it is game media websites and like article websites, like websites that are trying to pander closer to the actual corporations. Like they're trying to write articles so that way the corporations go, oh yeah, this guy's on my side. I want to make sure that I hire him to do one of my hit pieces later on.
Gamers want. It's our fault for being too demanding. It's all a bit exhausting and it makes no sense, and we're tired of pretending that we love this medium because it lets us live stories. We'll happily pay for greatness, but when you shrug off quality control, raise prices,
corporations themselves, at least when it comes to the gaslighting part, the bad games is 100% the actual like the actual games corporations, but like the gaslighting
generation insult us and then somehow spin the blame back on us, it feels like some sort of weird emotional whiplash, and we as the audience, as the customer, just want better. For us, for the developers, for the games, we just
want quality products that engage us and make us want to give you our money.
Want better. Even though it's been a rough few years, I still believe this industry and its leaders can turn things around. We've been seeing it happen more and more recently. And
like I've said this a couple different times, I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to see a lot of larger developers and larger companies split their larger teams up into a bunch of smaller teams, and you're going to see a lot more medium to small games be funded by bigger developers, and we're going to see them pumped out a lot faster.
Feels like there might be a real shift starting, because when studios are,
and I feel like they are going to start listening, hopefully anyways, they'll start listening to actual YouTube over games media and like online gaming media and stuff.
Passionate about their vision.
What I mean specifically is like gaming articles and like written gaming media.
That truly respect their audience. Lightning strikes and magic can happen. But it starts with honest conversation.
I feel like Baldur's Gate and fucking Expedition 33 were big wake-up calls on that one.
And mutual respect. We are not your enemies. We're actually your biggest cheerleaders. We just need you to trust that we want the same thing as you. Great games. Thanks so much for making it to the end of this video.
Jasper. Oh, shit.
And look at this.
Oh, shit.
First and foremost,
I was gonna say she's official now.
I want to thank you all so much
There
for
she
being
goes.
here, and I hope that my 300 Spartans are still here and can see just how far we've come.
This is
Yeah,
where we
I was
hold
gonna
them.
say the original 300 that were here with her, like, fucking proud on you.
This is where we fight.
We've got an army of almost 160,000 strong now. This channel really is dedicated to the hope that we can just get back to the real heart of games, that player joy can be brought back to the forefront, and
feel like
we
she-
can all start to really
she
love
really
this
wants
medium
to,
again. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about
start doing, like,
all of
that
this.
more
Has the industry been gaslighting you too, or are you wise beyond your years? Either way, the more we call out this kind of behavior,
It's been
the harder it
more
becomes for
than,
them
like,
to
I
get away
don't
with it.
see
Thank
why
you again for
not.
being here, and I'll see you in the next one.
But yeah, that was why they are gaslighting us. I would say, like I said, I don't think it's the industry itself. The Siri thing was 100% gaslighting, saying like this is 100% the character model that we showed you in both the trailer and from Witcher 3, but we changed it. It's the exact same model, but we changed it. Like, we promise it's the same model, but we changed it. Like, that 100% was gaslighting, but the rest of it, I feel like more is like the games media overall, like the games media gaslighting us over the actual games industry itself, like the actual developers and publishers gaslighting us. But